All right, greetings and welcome. YouTube, you're on live early. See, now this thing is blocking my view. And Facebook is acting like it don't want to start the live video. Oops, Facebook. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, I have many, but this is one of them. There are a lot of collaborative efforts on this YouTube channel. If you are just watching it for the first time, feel free to check out a lot of information that we have, a lot of community discussions that took place on Debate Talk for You, and a lot of questions that come up. Yeah, that's a little playback. A lot of the community discussions that happen on Debate Talk for You. It is currently on hiatus. We've been on the show for like 3 years now, and we've discussed as a community so many things that cause problems, issues, and so definitely scroll. When you go to the video section, you will see all of the videos and not just the opinion of one individual, but you will see discussion that will help you to get to your own place. Now, hold on one second, because I don't know why there's some. Usually Facebook is not the one who gives trouble, so let's see if it gives trouble now. So welcome. Share the video if you can. This is a follow-up to the initial. Oh, Facebook don't want me to go on today, huh? This is the follow-up. I will give it like to keep saying starting live, but it's not going on. So today we're going to follow up on, I know we've been in Genesis for 4 weeks now, a month. We've been in Genesis and really just the first 3 chapters of Genesis. And hopefully it has been edifying, giving you something to think about, take home and go back and study and come back with your thoughts. So if you can right now, feel free, share your thoughts of what you have gleaned thus far from what I've shared. Is it nothing new? Did it solidify some things? Did it, ruffle some feathers? What exactly is your feedback on Genesis as I try to figure out what's currently wrong with Facebook? Hold on, let me stop the live here. I do have a presentation shortly today. I study and then, I share and try not to get too distracted. So feel free to share. I can see your comments and your thoughts of what you have learned thus far or shared thus far, or probably never thought about. Because I'm like I said, I've heard some really crazy. I even listened to one today because, if you lean on your own understanding, it's not good. And so, most I can speak and help and shine light through people. So I'm listening and I'm like, some of this stuff, I'm like, you just all the way came up with that. You didn't even stick with the script. What I noticed is that a lot of people want to go so deep. Oh, we're gonna go deep. We're gonna go deep into it, and I'm like, but how are you gonna go deep before you can teach the esoteric knowledge of the ABCs? How about you just teaching the ABCs? And this has been one of my contentions for many years, and something that I have observed along the way. I guess I'm not supposed to go live on Facebook today because it's just blinking. So that's that. Let's get this party started, y'all. Let's get this party started. Hold on one second. Let me let the babies know we live here. And then we can get this party started. So let me just click off Facebook because that's not working already. All right, so Adam blamed Eve, basic Torah study for spiritual growth. My name is Amuna Yisrael. And like I said, you can definitely, take a look at a lot of the things that I have collaboratively as well as, in other spaces explored. Some of the things I explore is slavery, its effect on the melanated people, its effect on people at large. I'm interested in healing. I'm interested in getting the basics that we need and able to live the life that we're supposed to live, essentially. And so this is why this is for spiritual growth. So I'm going to share my screen at this point, and hopefully you can see it. And we're going to go on this track. Some people are still on Shabbat, others are not. And you can watch this at your own discretion. But I notice I have to get this stuff. So this is it. Adam blamed Eve. Give me 1 second. No, sorry about that. I had to let them know you're gonna have to be quiet. Okay, here we go. Adam blamed Eve, reviewing the case files, and the case files are what was left on record for us. That's what we have. We can surmise, we can guess, we can, we can hypothesize all day long. But we, essentially, if there's some missing pieces, we just have to concede, hey, there's some missing pieces. Well, that's what I do anyway. I don't try to necessarily put what's not there and just admit that they're missing pieces. So this is what we're going to explore today. That one took 2 tries. Okay, now I'm back. Adam blamed Eve. Let me know if you guys can see it. And we're going to go forward here. This is the 4th installment. Sorry, this is the 4th installment. And so to review, we have the original sin, which is what we went over the first week. The second week, we went over the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Last week, we went over naked and afraid, the art of seduction. And by the way, that book is crazy. That book is crazy. The book is crazy. I tried to listen to the, I got the review, and just listening to it makes you feel creepy because it's just really creepy and manipulative. And so I had to shut it off because it was agitating my spirit. But nonetheless, we got the checklist to show some of the spaces in which Eve was manipulated by the serpent. And today we will unlock, or we continue to unpack, Adam and Eve's transgression, in addition to examining the events that led up to and preceded their fall. Okay. Excuses or reasons. Like, what is the difference between an excuse and a reason? Is there a difference between an excuse and a reason? Or are they one and the same? Can we use excuses as reasons? These are all the questions, because as we continue, we're gonna hear when the question came up, like what's going on here, we're gonna hear either excuses or reasons, and hopefully we'll be able to determine that as we go along. I said, before we go deeper into the reasons given for transgressing the commands of the Creator, of course, let's take a moment to look at an interesting gem that I took note of in the events leading up to the big bite. So how many times has the text recorded Eve speaking to Adam? This is the question I have. How many times has the text recorded Eve speaking to Adam? If anybody would like to share, feel free to do so. I was reflecting on it. You study and then you put it down and you walk away. And then a thought came to me, like, how many times does she speak to him? How many times does the text reveal that they had a conversation, a discussion, right? That was a valid question. I was like, let me go back and read for the umpteenth time to find out if I can see the answer to that. So that's what we're going to go. Just bear with me. We're going to go on this little trek real quick to see how many times she spoke with him. Okay. Genesis 2:21. And the Creator caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. That's another story for another day. 22. And the rib which the Most High had taken from man made he woman and brought her unto the man. 22 and 23. And Adam said, I highlighted it for a reason. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. So in 23, if you read it all together, it seems as though Adam said 23 and 24. And this is Adam kind of speaking to her, or pronouncing that she shall be called woman, right? He's not really, she doesn't respond in this particular exchange. He just says it in the same way before this. Well, I'm not going to jump ahead. We're going to continue. So just keep note of that. Serpent speaks to woman, and woman seeks back. Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Most High had made. And he said unto the woman, yea, hath the Creator said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High said, you shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, you shall not certainly die. So when we were talking about the manipulation and we were talking about all of those things, we looked at it for that reason. There's so much here. But when you look at who's the dialogue, right? The script, you're in a play, you're in a script, who's speaking, who's not speaking, who's receiving. So in this space, the serpent initiates conversation with the woman replies to the serpent, and the serpent replies to the woman. So this is an actual dialogue here. The first conversation, or not conversation, we saw a proclamation by Adam before in Genesis 2, and Eve says nothing. She doesn't respond. In Genesis 3, the serpent speaks, and she speaks back, and then he speaks back. And then she begins to think about it. I thought that was very interesting that they're having this type of exchange. 3 and 6. When asked what happened, what went wrong, the woman gives, oh, sorry, I should say speaks to man, gives to the man with no speech. So 3 and 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. It doesn't say here in this particular narrative that she spoke. There's no words. There's no, there's no script right here. The only action that happened was, and she gave unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So far, we have Adam making the proclamation. When the Creator brings Eve to him, he proclaims. She says nothing. Then we have the serpent approaching her, speaking. She's speaking back, and then he speaks back, and then she meditates on what he shared. And then we have her with the husband, Adam, but Adam is not speaking to her. And it says she's there because he gives to her, but she gives to her with him with no speech. Anybody else finding this to be interesting? Or maybe that's just my mind. This is all on the surface. It's there if will continue. The narrative says she gave it to her husband with her. Up until this point in the story, she is not on record of having spoke to Adam directly. I wanted to make that a note. Let me stop sharing my screen to make sure everybody is good. Because for some reason, on this side, I can't see. Hold on. Okay, Daphne's here. Dash Shalom says, how you doing? Now that I think about it, I don't remember Eve saying anything to Adam directly. That's what I said. After I went back and thought about it. So I just wanted to make sure you guys are good. I'm going to pull up the screen again. Feel free to share the video and let's have the discussion. So, right, she doesn't speak to him directly. Okay, so, and then we see she gives him something but doesn't say anything. All right. So now here we are. The Creator speaks to Adam and Adam speaks back. In Genesis 3 and 9, the Most High called unto Adam and said unto him, wait a minute, am I sharing my screen? I think I forgot to share it again. 1 second. Nope. Here we go. YouTube does that crazy thing, right? Just picture in picture. All right, now there we go. So Creator speaks to Adam and Adam speaks back. Genesis 3 and 9. And the Most High called unto Adam and said unto him, where art thou? And Genesis 3 and 10. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. 3 and 11. And he said, who told you that you were naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that you should not eat? So once again, we're looking for the pattern of speech, who's speaking to whom and when. In this particular exchange, the Creator is speaking to Adam, and Adam is speaking back to the Creator. The Most High called to Adam and said, where are you? And Adam said, I heard you in the garden and I hid myself because I was afraid of it. And then the Creator responds back to Adam and said, well, who told you that? Right? For the purposes, why are we looking at this? For the purposes of finding out, looking at communication, essentially. Adam answered the Creator. 3 and 12. And the man said, when the Most High said, who told you this, Adam? What's this thing? Yeah, let's hide this thing right here. But then I'll just leave that there. So, and the man said, the woman who you gave to me or to be with me, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. Right? which is interesting because when you look at the Hebrew, the word Natan is there, and it says the man said, the woman who you gave to me, and you gave is Natanta. No, not Nata, right? Nata. Natata, my bad. Because it's not tata. Okay, you gave me. And then he turns around and says, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. And it's natana, which is the root natan, which means to give. So even in 3 and 12, he doesn't say that she spoke to me, she beguiled me, she used her wiles on me. He just says she gave it to me and I ate it, right? But there's more, because he put the woman in front of him, and then he put the creator in front of her, and he put this whole line of it's this person and that person, and then that's how I ended up doing. But we'll get back to that part on another, later on. I just wanted to highlight that he's responding, but he's also not saying that she was speaking to him, getting him to do this thing. So now, after the creator gets that report, the creator speaks to the woman, and the woman answers. So Genesis 3 and 13, and the Most High said unto the woman, what is this that you have done? And the woman said, the serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And she just got straight to the point. The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. But she did put the serpent before her. What is this, the thing you did done? Straight to the point would have been, I ate. And then the question was, why? And then the serpent made me do it. But she also puts the serpent in front of her. The word beguile, as we briefly spoke about last week, is nasa, to lead astray. It is also to lift up. But here it's lead astray, that is to delude, seduce. And we spoke about ways in which that she could have been seduced last week. And so this is what's happening. So now the creator speaks to the serpent. So the creator speaks to Adam. Adam speaks towards or about Eve, right? She doesn't respond. The serpent speaks to Eve, she responds. The Most High speaks to Adam, he responds. The Most High speaks to Eve, she responds, right? And so the Most High speaks to the serpent and said unto the serpent, because you have done this thing, you are cursed above all cattle and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly you shall go, and thus shalt you eat all the days of your life. Notice this beginning the judgment. So when the Most High is speaking to the serpent, he's making a proclamation and not really asking him what went down, because it's apparent everybody's fingering him. He's the one who did it. This is how it's going down. The serpent is not asked to explain or give reasons for his behavior, and he's not given an opportunity to speak at this time. Another thing to note is that the serpent never speaks directly to Adam, right? So that's interesting. We don't have record of Adam speaking directly to Eve, and we don't have record of the serpent speaking directly to Adam. So again, mixed signals. I just went over that. Creator speaking to Adam. Adam speaks to Eve, about Eve, not even really to her. He makes this proclamation. The serpent speaks to Eve. Eve speaks to the serpent. The creator speaks to Eve. The creator speaks to the serpent. Eve never speaks directly to Adam on record, or vice versa. And I said, Houston, we possibly may have a problem, right? Genesis 3 and 11, we're going to go back again, because sometimes when you're going over a cold case, you have to keep retracing your steps to see if you missed anything. 3 and 11, and he said, who told you that you were naked? Has you eaten of the tree wherefore I commanded you that you should not eat? 3 and 12, and the man said, oops, let's go back. The woman who you gave to me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. 3 and 17, and Adam, and unto Adam he said, this is the judgment now. This is the judgment that's matching. This is the judgment that comes up based on what Adam shares. 1 second, please. This is the judgment now that comes up after Adam says what he says, and the creator goes through this level of investigation about what's going on. And it says 3 and 17, and unto Adam he said, because you have hearkened unto the voice of your wife, and has eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and shalt you eat of it all the days of your life. Which is interesting now. When I'm reading back, because people use Men sometimes, and even in teaching, we hear this thought process of the woman's voice, this, that, and the third, right? And the Creator is cursing Adam because he listened to the voice of his woman or his wife, but the text is saying, or does not reveal, that she spoke to him. It reveals that she gave something to him and he followed. I found that to be interesting. I don't know about anybody else, but I found that to be interesting that there's no record of her speaking. Not to say she never spoke to him, but there's no record to actually speaking to him at this point or after this point. After this point, she speaks one more time when she begets a man child of the Most High, and we hear her proclaiming and naming him. But still, we don't see a dialogue. We don't see a back and forth. We don't see them having or engaging in conversation. I'm going to release my screen. I have some more. We're going to ask who's to blame, what's going on, and who's to blame for what's going on. But I'm going to come and check. Hey, Brother Sal Showtime, what's going on? So that is what we have so far. We're going to continue. For those who just joined us, Adam blamed Eve. This is the discussion. Should he have done that? Was there another way? Does one male still blame females for their downfall? Is it proper? Are we learning from the mistakes of our forefathers? Are we continuing it? This is not just to have Bible discussion and just go back and forth about what we think. We're looking at the way in which humanity stepped aside from the original design and the program that was activated that causes us to continue to be on the wrong path. And as we see here, communication and miscommunication is at the base of the issue between Adam and Hawa or Eve, because the text doesn't reveal the communication. We see discussing or communicating with the wrong people or entities, which causes ultimately people to go astray. But I'm going to continue. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to share. I try to keep it short because I try not to add anything that it's not there. Just highlighting what is there. Uh-oh. Please forgive me. The screen is acting crazy. Okay. So who's to blame? Who's to blame? The question, who told you, was looking to assign responsibility to the person/entity that caused the transgression. So essentially, Adam does not answer the question. What he does is answer the question in a roundabout way. Who told you was the question, and the answer was, I ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But instead of answering, I ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, to the question, who told you, he goes on to say, it was the woman that you gave me, right? In the text, we see that a number of factors played into the ultimate transgression of the command. Working with what the text gives us and using it to apply in our personal lives, we can see how this scenario plays out over and over again, as I said. And again, if you don't agree, feel free to share respectfully. And you can even come, we'll have a recap on the discussions and you come on and we'll discuss your viewpoints and see if we can come to an understanding that can help us in our daily walk. Instigator, the serpent, right? Because if this is a crime scene, we're looking back, the transgression was a violation of the law, right? So someone or many ones won afoul of the law. And so we have the instigator, which was the serpent, right? A person who brings about or initiates something. So did the Most High really say? We have him. That's his, his role. And we have the perpetrator, who was Eve, who the serpent came to with his instigation, right? A person who carries out a harmful, illegal, or immoral act. In this context, it was illegal because the tree of knowledge of good and evil was off limits. So she was the first one who transgressed that bound, even though the instigator or the serpent who beguiled her was the instigator. She perpetrated the crime. It's like somebody saying, hey man, I know how you can go do da da da, but you're the actual person who did it. You're the one who had your hand in the cookie jar. That was Eve. She's the one who actually put her hand in the cookie jar. Accomplice is Adam, because now that you robbed the bank, now that you stole the goods, now that you did whatever you did with it, you came back and you gave it to somebody and they knew of it. They knew where you got it from. And so now that makes them a party to the transgression. So the accomplice becomes Adam, a person who helps another commit a crime. He commits the crime, and then she commits the crime, and then he also commits the crime. And together, their eyes are open, right? So they're I was looking at co-conspirator. Some way argue that he may not be accomplice. He must also be a perpetrator. Hey, I'm open to that discussion. But let's continue. On the job training, we have spent, let me make sure this is the next one. Yeah. Okay, cool. We have spent a significant amount of time, and this is, I'm talking about over the past 4 weeks, right? Exploring Eve, the serpent, and the serpent. And let's turn the lens to discuss Adam's shortcomings in this situation, his blind spot, and ultimate game of hot potato with accepting responsibility for his actions. This is something that we experience even in relationships today, after how many years of the relationship challenge, after all of the discussions with both male and female, our brothers and sisters. This is one of the things that I see even happening over onto this day. We will blame something that happened many millennia for the reason why someone is unable to accept responsibility in 2018. Going 2019, right? So it doesn't matter who it is. Humanity, for whatever reason, does not like to accept responsibility. And this came in with the knowledge of good and evil. I haven't really, delved into that space as yet, but it's something that I find intriguing, even with my young children. Even as children, it's innate that if they do something wrong, they don't want to accept responsibility. And they're always looking around for somebody to implicate in whatever they just did. Well, this person told me, and that person told me. And I'm like, wow, what is that? Because that is part of the transgression mechanism. Like that is part of it, but I haven't fully looked into it. But if you have, feel free to share. When the statement, "it is not good for man to be alone," was made in Genesis 2:18, Adam is not recorded as having input, meaning we went over that before. Let me drink a little water. And the Most High says it's not good for man to be alone. But we don't see Adam really saying anything. We don't really see Adam having a conversation. The Most High just look, because the creator is the creator. It's like, hey, man, this is not good. And the Most High goes about remedying that situation. And so basically, she's brought to Adam, and he's like, wow. And then he makes this proclamation, right? Whether or not he gets you know how somebody see you on the job and you working and they're like, oh, I'm going to give you somebody to help you, but you may not possibly know all the ways in which they can help. I've been there before, where you go to a job and the person needs help, but they don't know. They're so used to doing it on their own. They don't really even know where to put you. Well, let me find a job for you. Well, let me put you over here. Well, just sit there until I have something for you to do. I see that also, and not equating the feminine principle here with children, but I'm saying that Adam, the masculine and feminine, was in one vessel called Adam. He was working and doing his job, whatever it is that he needed to do. Now the Most High is like, it's not good that man should be alone, and I'm going to give you a helpmate. And there's a possibility that he didn't know, or know how to relinquish responsibility, or know how to delegate. There's a possibility that, because there's some people who don't know how to delegate, and even if they did have help, they wouldn't know what to do with them. All the time the children come up to me, "Mommy, how can I help you?" And if you're used to doing stuff by yourself, you're like, yeah, give me a minute. You know what I'm saying? You can help me over here, but just give me a minute. Or there's a possibility is you can help me, but you're not doing it right. There are all these things to consider when we're talking about he's getting a helpmate now to assist him in his job description. 2:19. We read that Adam was created to dress and to keep the garden, and this he was equipped. And we see that in 2:19. And out of the ground the Most High formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. So he was equipped. That was his job, and he was doing it. This is 2:19, 2:20. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. So he was busy. This time they wasn't split though. There was a male and female created, he, them. So Adam is one at this point. But he's doing his job in the field, and there's no issue. 2:20. But for Adam, there was not found a helpmeet for him. So he's seeing creation, he's seeing the duality, he's seeing the masculine and feminine principle. But for him, there was found no helpmeet. But nonetheless, he was still able to complete his job descriptions, or their job description. Adam, masculine and feminine, was able to do the job before them to do. However, the story reveals that once again, another element appears, the Azer Kanido, which is the helpmate over against you. Adam was not able to strike the balance for some reason. We see 2 and 21. And the Most High caused the deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh thereof. 22. And the rib which the Most High had taken from man made he a woman and brought him on to man. Okay, so this is the Most High. This is not Adam having input in this scenario. Adam has been used to naming creation, whatever he declared it was so. He continued this trend when he saw the woman that the Creator made. So he was like, oh, I'm naming you, I'm naming you. So when he sees her now, which is supposed to be not creation, it's not the animals of the field, it's not the fish of the sea. The feminine principle that's now presented to him is not on that level. It's not, she's not beneath him in that way. But he still proceeds to name her. This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and that can be taken as literal, or that can be taken as an idiom, meaning this is my family. She shall be called woman because she was taken from man, and the word there is Isha, and the word for man is Ish. Okay, 2 and 24. And just a note, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first place that the term Ish and Isha appear. You don't see Ish. You don't see Isha. So all the time it's saying Adam, it's Adam. But this is the first place that Ish and Isha actually appear. 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. One can say that this is the narrators, or one can say that this is Adam saying this, because at this point, Adam and Kawa or Eve doesn't have a physical mother and father, right? And so one could say this can be the narrators giving the reason for man and woman to come together, or one could say that this is Adam saying it. At this point, I really don't know, but it's there. So I'm reading it because it's giving a description of what this woman is supposed and man is supposed to do. Leave their parents and cleave onto his wife, or the man is supposed to leave his parents and cleave onto his wife, and they become one. So in order for the two to become one again, they have to unite. And I spelled that wrong, sorry. But there is more. There's more. So far, hope everybody is following along. And again, this is just some observations, and feel free to share. Can you relate? Feminine energy and masculine energy work together to create. This is all of creation. The seed, the earth, day and night together makes one. We see it everywhere we go, that these energies, not male and female, but feminine and masculine, are what creates. If and when they fall out of sync, imbalance occurs in creation. So concerning Adam, the creator decided to create Adam with a balancing element so that he wouldn't be out of sync, because he said it's not good. So you see what I'm saying? So that he wouldn't be out of sync, the Most High says he creates a balance for him, a counterbalance. When he sees Eve, he decrees what she shall be to him. However, it is important to note that her function and design was already programmed by the creator. When the creator says, I will make an Azer Kanigdo, that already has within it what she's supposed to do and who she's supposed to be. And because Adam, to a certain degree, because the creator is one who makes her, Adam cannot change her job description. Although he proclaims, you shall be called woman because you were taken from man. But what we experience today in relationships oftentimes is the masculine principle moving into the stead of the creator, trying to change the job description of the feminine principle. But we've discussed that countless times on Debate Talk for You. But for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to continue. This goes beyond Adam's practice of naming. It has to do with the essence, like I said, of what the Most High created her to be. In the text, beyond saying that she would be a help to him, we do see that the creator expounding to Adam in what ways she would help him, right? Adam, in the narrative and retelling of the events, concentrated on the woman and not on his responsibilities as the man. So the first thing he does is not concentrate on the fact that he's a male, and males are zakars, and zakars are called to remember. He doesn't concentrate on that fact. He doesn't concentrate on his responsibility as a man, and that he had ample opportunity between the time that she's discussing with the serpent between the time she partakes of the fruit and gives it to him, that he had opportunities that were missed to do his job, and so that he would have a different outcome. And as a result of him not doing his job, it was easier to shift the responsibility onto the feminine principle. And again, we've spoken about what went wrong in that scenario. So hopefully no one hears the video now and just jump to conclusion to say we're trying to let Eve off the hook. That's not the point. That's not what's happening. Again, the text doesn't reveal her words to him. It only highlights her actions. And again, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. How can I help you? Adam followed his wife and accepted and partook of what the Creator said was off limits. In this case, she helped him in the wrong direction. You always hear, behind every good man is a good woman, right? So a woman has the power to help build a man up or to tear him down. But we'll talk about that more at another time. But that's the reality. And I saw it even simply play out today in my children. I have twins, a boy and a girl. And I see my daughter, she's going around and her brother is with her. And you see it in children, but particularly I'm looking at the twins, and she picks up something and she looks at it, and we already discussed what the thing is. And I put it outside and I looked up what the tree was. It was a tree. It wasn't a tree of knowledge of good and evil. It was a tree, right? So let me take this down for a second. It was essentially it was a what's the thing called again? And this is true story. It was a pepper bush, not pepper, Brazilian peppercorn. That's what it was. And so this Brazilian peppercorn, when I read about it, it's a very invasive bush. And so when I began to notice here where we are in Florida, it grows. At first, I didn't notice it, right? But then I realized it grows everywhere. And when the seed drops, because there's so many little seeds, it drops everywhere. It's those little small red peppers that you see in your pepper grinder machine, whatever the case may be. And so I decided against planting it because of all the conversation of it being so invasive, and every time you cut it, it grows more. And none needless to say, they were outside and she picks up the little peppercorn and then she crushes it and then she tries to eat it. And I didn't see that part. All I see her quickly trying to give it to her brother. I saw that part and I'm like, well, what are you doing? And she's like, and I'm like, put that down. So just that quick of someone partaking of something, they say, oh, you got to try this. It could have been meditated upon, back to Eve and Adam. It could have been something that they meditated on or not. We don't know. It could have been as easy as, oh man, this tastes so good. You want some? Or we don't know if they've had discussions in the past. All we know is what the text gave us. And the text does not reveal that she particularly anyway tried to persuade him to do what he did. She just she gave it to him and he ate it. Right? That's what it says. So Adam's judgment, right? 3:17. And unto Adam, he said, this is the Creator, because you have hearkened unto the voice, and I highlighted that, and has eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, you shall not eat. Curses the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shall you eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles shall it bring forth to you, and you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, till you return unto the ground, for out of it were you taken, and from dust you are, and unto dust you shall return. So Adam is getting a judgment for listening to the voice of his wife. Again, this may be in his following her instruction or command. Eve directly listened to the voice of the serpent. Adam followed the example of the woman transgressing the Creator's command, right? So I just find that something noteworthy. So it's the woman. This is the point. This is the part of the story that gets a rise out of most people, to tell you the truth, because that judgment is like, see, this is why I got to work hard. This is why I'm out here doing this. This is why such and such and such. When man gets agitated or upset about their lot in life or their condition, it's usually, take it back to it's her fault, because see, it says it right here in Genesis. I say it reiterates why he's receiving the judgment and names the woman as the reason for her pain. So a lot of times when a man is going through agitation, he doesn't want to even hear the voice of the woman. Remember, it wasn't good for him to be alone. And so once he shuts out the voice, because automatically for many, the voice in and of itself represents the reason why I'm agitated and in sorrow, then she is neutralized and not able to do her job. And then you see a lot of women struggling with raising their voices and being loud and trying to be heard, because that is part of her principle. We'll talk about more of that another time. So we have essentially at the crux of this matter, communication issues. We have, as we said before, like internal issues that has to do with covetousness, that has to do with the lies we tell ourselves and the reasons that we give to transgress boundaries. And essentially, she transgressed the boundary because the promise was there that nothing was going to happen to you, right? And so this is why we later on we have a whole lot of conversation in Torah about hearing the command and doing it, and mastering the self and conquering within ourselves these things that come up and have been coming up from the beginning. I am going to go ahead and wind down here because we're going to talk more about hearkening to the voice of your wife at another time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Hopefully that was able to shed some light on or continue in this study of what was going on in the book of Bereshit and how we can apply some of the understanding to our everyday life and kind of, grow our spirit and our soul, and understand that yelling and screaming are not going to necessarily get if you're talking about man and woman relationship, it's not going to get the attention. It's going to pull the attention onto the feminine and say, you are the reason. You are the reason why this is happening. You are the reason why I can't X, Y, and Z. And so because we see a propensity towards blaming as opposed to accepting responsibility, in a lot of spaces, one has to get to a space where they instead of trying to overcorrect the other party, you get yourself to a space where you're right. You're kind of like blameless to a degree, if you can understand what I'm saying. So that even if the person is trying to project their shortcomings on you, it doesn't stick. You don't go down with them. It's like the arguing couple. Well, I do this because you do that. You know what I mean? And so I see Daphne said, I was thinking the text does say that Adam was with her. If he was with her, meaning close by her, and he didn't stop her or the serpent, it would be hard to put full blame on her, considering. It does say he was with her. I agree with that. So yeah, he puts half the blame on her and half the blame on the creator. I mean, that was really a bold move right there. I'm coming. No. He was like, I'm just gonna go 50-50 on this blame. I ain't, because then that's something. They were together. Yeah, it says close to each other. I mean, it says she gave to her husband with her, and the man with her, and he ate. So, whether he's watching this whole conversation, we don't know. It's very strange. You know what I'm saying? That he's watching this conversation. He's seeing the whole thing go down. There's some things that come to my mind. It could also be, it can be so many things. We can go on the side of they didn't know, and she was the one willing to go out there and be like, yo, I'm I'll do it. Or they did know and it was strategic. We may never know, but what we do know is that similar situations happen in today's space and time. I'm not saying this is what happened in Adam's case. I'm saying if we put it into 2018, we do have situations where you may have a male who is the man of the woman, who, I'm not saying this is Adam, so please nobody take that out there. I'm talking about now for spiritual growth. You may have a male in a situation who wants to get to a space, and you see the memes all over, your queen can get to spaces that the king can't go. And you may have a male who's willing to allow the queen to enter into compromising situations and spaces, because in his estimation, if he can't necessarily go there directly, but he can go there through her and kind of use her as a buffer. This happens. So you may have the man who allows the woman to go out into the world and not necessarily. What was the name of the what was the name? Aha. The name of the show was, the movie was, it's an old movie. Indecent Proposal. That was the name of that movie. Who remembers that movie? Yes, the beginning, the woman's like a guinea pig. Do you remember that movie, Indecent Proposal? Where Woody Harrelson was in that movie, and I believe it was Demi Moore. Demi Moore, or what's the other lady name? It's an older movie, but this is kind of what happened where the Nakash type of individual propositions the fiance or wife. And at first they you know, like, nah, that, we could never possibly do that. And as they begin to entertain the idea, he allows her to do it. And in so doing, it ruins their relationship. What's the name? That's the name of the movie. That's a perfect movie to illustrate in this day and time how these type of things actually happen. Right? I'm not saying that's particularly what happened in Adam's case. We see also, and somebody, and when we discuss that, because again, I'm about spiritual growth. I don't idolize our foreparents. I don't make idols of them, because the Most High says, worship nothing created, formed, or fashioned. So I look at what comes before me with respect and reverence, and as well as looking at them as human, which allows me to navigate through the text and learn from their mistakes, as opposed to making excuses for real human type behavior. We see something, not to this degree, but we do see in the case of Father Abraham and Ima Sarah, when they're going into Egypt or Mitzrayim, and I'm going off point just to make a point. We see Father Abraham saying, hey man, you know how they get down in Egypt. You know, if they see me, you're a beautiful woman. If they see me with you, you know what I mean? They might come for me because of you. So go, you know, go before me, essentially. So the masculine principle puts the feminine principle when he's supposed to protect her, right? In that sense, sometimes he will put her before him so that she can protect him. Now, in some spaces, the Azir does protect him. But in the case of Abraham, he puts Sarah before him and like tell them, you know, I'm your brother. Now this, if the creator was not with them, could have went a totally different way, and Ima Sarah would have been defiled. And then there would have been a whole nother conversation and story. But because the Most High was with him, he allowed her not to be defiled. You see? So it doesn't always work for everyone, but there are some situations and circumstances where the masculine principle, and even we see Pharaoh, if I'm not mistaken, like, why did you tell me she was your sister? Why did you do that? Either it's with Abraham or Yitzchak. I have to refresh my memory, because Yitzchak came and did the same thing. And Pharaoh was like, why did you tell me she was your sister? Like, I could have violated, I could have sinned, you know? And so, yeah, have been known. We see it throughout the text in more than one space, but we'll come back and continue to look at Adam blaming Eve, or Adam allowing this to go down and not bringing to the remembrance that this is a transgression, which is what he was supposed to do. He wasn't supposed to, you know, beat her down or try to radah her. He was supposed to bring to the remembrance, which he's not speaking in the narrative, which is very interesting. He's not speaking in the narrative, and she's not cow-tonguing him in the narrative. We just don't see him speaking until he, you know, throws her under the bus. So, anywho, hopefully, you know, that helped in some way, form, or fashion. And we'll come back on another time to speak more about. I'm trying to think. There was one more portion, if I'm not mistaken, that I wanted to explore in this particular, because the judgments have been like, and I think we actually went over speaking a little bit about the judgments. So I don't know how far I'm going to go into the actual judgments, but I think this for me, you know, even the study for me helps to renew some things in my mind, and look at things from different perspectives, and, you know, really glean from it. So with that said, thank everybody for tuning in. This is basic Torah study for spiritual growth. You're really helping me to not only just study for my own edification, but come to and share, which is something that I haven't really done in this capacity in an ongoing basis. So Thank everybody for tuning in, and everybody have a blessed night.